After giving birth, Amelia expected exhaustion, pain, and sleepless nights. But she never expected the horrifying smell that began leaking from her body, growing stronger each day, until even her newborn daughter cried when held close. Her husband Evan thought it was a medical complication, until his best friend Daniel, always lingering, always watching, smirked every time Amelia winced. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. And the more Amelia tried to hide her shame, the more Daniel acted like a man waiting for a secret to burst open. The smell wasn't natural, it wasn't accidental. And soon, Evan would learn Daniel's real plan. Evan had always believed that marriage was supposed to be the safest place in the world. A warm home, a loyal partner, a place where love breathed and healed. For 7 years he thought he had exactly that with Amelia. She was gentle, thoughtful, and fiercely devoted to building the quiet life they both wanted. When she became pregnant with their first child, he believed their happiness would only grow deeper. But life, he would learn, had a way of testing even the strongest hearts. Amelia's pregnancy had been difficult. Constant nausea, crippling fatigue, endless hospital visits. Yet through every ache, she would press Evan's hand to her belly and whisper, "It's worth it. Everything is worth it." When their daughter Ivy finally arrived, Amelia cried with the kind of joy that could soften steel. Evan held them both, believing the hardest part was over. He was wrong. 2 weeks after birth, Amelia began to change. Not emotionally, although she was exhausted, but physically. A smell, faint at first, then sharp and sour, lingered around her. She noticed it before anyone else. No amount of washing helped. She scrubbed, soaked, sprayed, but the odor clung to her like a shadow. She hid it behind polite smiles, long showers and loose clothes, hoping it would pass. But Evan noticed. Not the smell at first. He was too busy juggling night feeds, diapers, and work. But the way Amelia avoided his touch, the way she winced when she sat, the way she seemed ashamed of her own body. Something wasn't right. One evening she walked into the living room with Ivy in her arms, her face pale with embarrassment. "Evan, do I smell strange?" "Honestly?" He blinked, unsure how to answer. "Strange how?" Amelia's eyes filled with tears. "Down there. I've been trying everything. I don't know what's happening." He hugged her gently, trying to reassure her, though he too had caught glimpses of the odor, a foul, decaying scent that didn't seem natural. "We'll go to the doctor tomorrow," he promised. "Whatever this is, we'll fix it." But Amelia looked past him, toward the kitchen, where someone else had been standing minutes earlier, Evan's best friend, Daniel. Daniel had been around often, supposedly to help Evan adjust to fatherhood. He came with groceries, held the baby, and joked his way through the sleepless evenings. But Daniel noticed the smell too, and unlike Evan, he didn't hide the disgust on his face. That night after Amelia went upstairs, Evan found Daniel lingering in the kitchen, his expression dark. "Mate," Daniel whispered, "she stinks. Something's wrong with her." "Proper wrong." Evan nearly punched him. "Don't talk about her like that." Daniel shrugged. "Just saying. Women change after birth, some worse than others. You can't save everyone." Evan didn't understand why Daniel said it that way, or why he was smirking, or why his tone sounded less like concern and more like satisfaction. Because what Evan didn't know, what Amelia feared. Amelia barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the weight of shame pressing down on her chest. The smell haunted her, sickly, rotten, impossible to ignore. She showered twice before dawn, scrubbing until her skin turned red, but nothing changed. When she finally stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, Evan was waiting on the bed with Ivy asleep in his arms. "You okay?" he asked gently. "No," she whispered. "I feel dirty, wrong." Evan touched her cheek. "We'll sort this out today. First thing." But deep inside, Amelia feared it was already too late. Something wasn't just wrong. Something had been done to her. Downstairs, Daniel was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee like he owned the place. He grinned when Amelia walked past, his eyes trailing over her towel-wrapped body for a moment too long. "Morning, new mum," he said casually. "Sleep well?" She didn't answer. Evan noticed the way her shoulders tightened, the way she shrank away from Daniel's voice, and it bothered him more than he admitted. Daniel leaned close to Evan. "Mate, I really think you should prepare yourself. Post-birth infections? They can get nasty. Some women never go back to normal." Evan shot him a cold glare. "Stop talking like you know everything." Daniel only smiled, taking another sip, just trying to help. But his tone wasn't helpful. It was amused. As soon as Daniel left, Evan drove Amelia to the clinic. She winced in pain during the ride, pressing her hand against her lower abdomen. "It burns," she whispered, like something is cutting me from inside. Evan's hands tightened around the steering wheel. Why didn't you tell me it was this bad? Because, she looked out the window ashamed. Because you might think less of me. I smell disgusting, Evan. Even Ivy. Even she pulls away from me. He reached for her hand. I don't care about the smell. I care about you. But neither of them were prepared for what the doctor found. Inside the sterile white room, Amelia lay trembling on the examination table while the gynecologist worked quietly. It took her less than a minute to freeze. Her eyebrows drew together, her breath caught. Amelia, she said carefully, you have something lodged inside you. Something that shouldn't be there. Amelia's entire body went cold. What do you mean? Evan stood, his heart hammering. What is it? The doctor swallowed. It looks like a foreign object, purposefully placed. It's been trapped for weeks, causing infection. Amelia started shaking violently. Evan grabbed her hand, but she didn't feel it. Her breathing turned shallow, panic rising like a wave. In that moment, flashes of memory returned, moments she dismissed as pregnancy fog. A night she couldn't remember fully. Waking up sore. Daniel's voice whispering something she couldn't understand. The doctor excused herself to prepare for immediate removal, leaving them alone in the silent room. Evan whispered. For a long minute, Amelia couldn't speak. Her throat tightened, her chest caved inward, and her breath rattled like someone squeezing the life out of her. Evan kept asking questions, but all she could hear was Daniel's voice echoing in her skull, the memory resurfacing in fragments she had never pieced together. The doctor returned, gloves on, voice steady but urgent. We need to remove it now. The infection is spreading fast. Evan nodded, helping Amelia lie back. She squeezed his hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. When the doctor began the procedure, Amelia closed her eyes and tears streamed silently down her temples. The object slid out with a sickening sound. The doctor dropped it into a sterile tray with a sharp clink, a small piece of metal wrapped in decayed fibers. The odor that escaped was overwhelming. The nurse covered her mouth. Evan stumbled back, hand over his nose, eyes wide with disbelief. What is that? He choked. The doctor's voice was dark with anger. This is deliberate. No medical mistake causes this. Someone inserted this into her after the birth. The room spun for Evan. He stared at the metal piece, his brain refusing to accept the truth. After the birth? When? How? Amelia's lips trembled. Her voice was barely a whisper. I remember a night. I'd just come home from the hospital. You were asleep on the sofa with the baby. I was so tired I could barely stand. Daniel, he said he'd help me upstairs. Evan felt his blood turn to ice. He helped me into the bed. I thought he left. I think I passed out. When I woke up, something felt wrong. She covered her face with her hands. I thought it was the stitches. The doctor said discomfort was normal. I didn't think... Her voice broke. I didn't think someone would do something like this. Evan's heart pounded violently, rage rising like fire. He touched you? He hurt you? I don't know, Amelia sobbed. I can't remember everything. I was weak, dizzy, still bleeding, but I remember his hand on my thigh. And then nothing. The doctor gently interrupted. We'll run tests for infection and trauma. What happened to you is a crime. This isn't your fault. But Amelia didn't hear her. She curled into herself, shaking uncontrollably. Like a child hiding from a monster. Evan moved to her, wrapping his arms around her. Amelia, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. But he is never coming near you again. The doctor left to file a mandatory report. The nurse cleaned up the room, unable to hide the fury on her face. Alone again, Evan felt a storm building inside him. Fear, guilt, rage, all tangled into one unbearable knot. How long had Daniel been plotting this? And why? He looked down at the metal piece in the tray, small, sharp, wrapped in something that looked like string. Not random, not accidental, planted, hidden inside his wife's body. Evan clenched his fists until his nails dug into his palms. Daniel hadn't just crossed a line. He had. The drive home from the clinic was silent, heavy, and suffocating. Amelia sat curled against the window, staring out as though the world outside no longer belonged to her. Evan kept glancing at her, desperate to find something reassuring to say. But every word died before it reached his tongue. What comfort could he give? How could he promise safety when someone he trusted had violated their home? When they pulled into the driveway, Amelia flinched. Daniel's car was gone, but the memory of his smirk still lingered like poison in the air. Evan helped her inside. Do you want to lie down? No, she whispered. I don't want to be alone. Not in the bedroom. He swallowed hard. We can stay downstairs. They sat on the living room sofa. Ivy slept peacefully in her bassinet, oblivious to the storm surrounding her parents. Amelia kept touching her, as if reassuring herself the baby was real, safe, untouched. After a long moment, she whispered, "Evan, do you believe me? About that night?" Evan turned toward her sharply. "Of course I believe you. But I can't remember everything. Maybe I'm mixing things up. He grabbed her hands gently. "Amelia, stop. Something was found inside your body. You didn't imagine it. Someone put it there. And the only person who could have had access was Daniel." Her face crumpled. "He was supposed to be your friend. He held Ivy. He joked with us. Her voice choked. "Why would he hurt me?" Evan stared at the floor, jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. "I don't know. But I'm going to find out." Before Amelia could respond, his phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Daniel, heard you went to the doctor today. Everything all right? Need me to swing by later?" Evan felt sick. The audacity, the nerve, the confidence of a man who believed himself untouchable. He turned the phone so Amelia could see. She immediately tensed, her breath catching. "Don't reply," she whispered frantically. "Please, don't bring him here." Evan nodded. "I won't, not yet." He needed time, answers, evidence, and control of the situation. But Daniel didn't wait. Within minutes, another message arrived. "Daniel, mate, you ignoring me?" Then another. "Daniel, hope Amelia isn't getting worse. Sometimes infections spread fast." Evan's hand shook with anger. Amelia covered her mouth, tears spilling again. He typed one short reply. "Evan, stop texting." Daniel didn't respond for a minute. Then, "Daniel, touchy, everything okay at home?" Evan turned off the phone before he threw it against the wall. That night, Amelia fell asleep on the sofa, curled around Ivy as though guarding her from unseen danger. Evan sat awake beside them, staring at the darkened window. Every muscle in his body wound tight. He replayed years of friendship with Daniel, every laugh, every late-night conversation, every moment he had trusted him completely. How long had Daniel been watching Amelia? How long had he been waiting? Evan barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Daniel's smirk, heard Amelia's trembling voice, or imagined that metal object hidden inside her, rotting her from within. By dawn, exhaustion gnawed at him, but rage kept him upright. He brewed coffee mechanically, glancing every few seconds at Amelia and Ivy, both still sleeping on the sofa. The soft rise and fall of Amelia's breath calmed him only slightly. She looked fragile, hollowed out by fear and humiliation. He wanted to gather her up and never let anything near her again. But Daniel was out there, and Evan refused to hide. At 7:14 a.m., Daniel texted again. "Daniel, morning. Want me to pick up anything? Amelia looking better today?" Evan didn't reply. He grabbed his keys, kissed Amelia's forehead softly and whispered, "I'll be back soon. You're safe. I promise." Then he left the house and drove straight to Daniel's flat. Daniel opened the door half-dressed, towel around his shoulders, hair wet like he had just stepped out of the shower. He grinned the moment he saw Evan. "Mate, early visit coffee?" he said casually, turning his back and walking into the flat as if nothing was wrong. Evan stepped inside, closing the door quietly behind him. "I know what you did," Evan said coldly. Daniel paused mid-step but didn't turn around. "What exactly do you think I did?" "You put something inside Amelia." Daniel chuckled, slow, mocking. "That's insane." "She had surgery yesterday," Evan growled. A foreign object was removed. Something that could only be inserted deliberately. "She remembers you helping her to bed that night, and you've been acting guilty ever since." Daniel turned now, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. His eyes were calm, too calm. "Evan, mate, postpartum women get confused, emotional, hormonal. You can't take everything she says as truth." Evan took one step closer. "This isn't confusion. This is criminal. She could have died." Daniel shrugged. "Things happen." That pushed Evan over the edge. He grabbed Daniel by the shirt and slammed him against the wall. "Why?" Evan roared. "Why would you do this to her? To us?" Daniel didn't flinch. He smirked. "You were always the lucky one," he whispered. "Perfect wife, perfect home, perfect life." His eyes narrowed. "I just wanted to see how perfect things stayed once I touched them." Evan's blood ran cold. "You're sick," he whispered. Daniel leaned close, voice barely audible. "And she didn't even wake up when I did it." The world blurred red. Evan punched him, once, twice, before forcing himself back, chest heaving, fist trembling. He could kill him. He truly could. But Amelia needed him alive, not in prison. Daniel wiped the blood from his lip, still smiling. Careful. You wouldn't want to make things worse. Evan stared at him, eyes burning. It's already worse. For you. He turned and walked out before he could break Daniel's skull. When he returned home, Amelia woke instantly, panic sparking in her eyes. You went to him, didn't you? She whispered. Evan sat beside her, gripping her hands. Amelia, he confessed. Her breath stopped. But I swear to you, Evan continued, voice breaking. I'm not letting him near you again. We're going to the police, today. Amelia trembled, tears running down her cheeks. Evan, I'm scared. He pulled her into his arms. I know, but he's not winning. Not this time. Evan expected Amelia to break when he said the word police. Instead, she went completely still. Too still. Her hands tightened around Ivy's blanket. Her eyes stared past Evan, unfocused, as though she were seeing something far beyond the walls of their home. Amelia? Evan whispered. I don't know if I can, she murmured. Going to the police, it makes everything real. It means saying the words out loud. It means telling strangers what he did to me. Evan's heart cracked. You don't have to say anything alone. I'll be there every second. But Amelia shook her head, tears gathering again. No, Evan, you don't understand. When I close my eyes, I feel it all over again. I feel him standing near me. I feel the shame, the smell. I'm terrified. And I don't know if I'm strong enough to face an entire investigation. Evan cupped her face gently. You don't have to be strong. You just have to be honest. What happened to you is not your shame. It's Daniel's crime. Her shoulders trembled, but she didn't pull away. After a long moment, Amelia whispered, Okay, I'll try. They arrived at the police station late morning. Amelia clung to Evan's arm as they walked inside, her steps small and fragile. A female officer greeted them and guided them to a private interview room. Amelia sat stiffly, gripping the chair's edge like she might fall. The officer spoke in a gentle voice. You're safe here. Take your time. Amelia's lips parted, but no sound came out. She stared down at her trembling hands, breathing shallowly. Evan placed his hand over hers. You're not alone. Finally, her voice cracked through the silence. My husband's best friend. He hurt me. Her words shook so violently they nearly shattered in the air. The officer nodded. Tell me what happened. It took nearly 2 hours for Amelia to recount the pieces she remembered. The pain she endured, and the foreign object removed from her body. She cried. She paused. She shook uncontrollably. But she didn't stop. And when she finished, the officer squeezed her hand softly. You did the right thing. We will open an investigation immediately. Evan felt a wave of relief until the officer added, We have to bring him in for questioning. He may deny everything. These cases can be long. Amelia swallowed hard. He isn't going to stop, is he? Evan answered before the officer could. Not if I'm breathing. When they returned home, Amelia collapsed on the sofa, emotionally drained. Evan brought her water and sat beside her. Evan, she whispered suddenly. I need to tell you something else. His chest tightened. What is it? She hesitated, then looked up with haunted eyes. I think Daniel planned this long before Ivy was born. I had found something weeks before the delivery. Something I ignored. What did you find? Evan asked. Amelia's voice trembled. A small metal piece. In the laundry basket. I didn't know what it was. I thought it fell from a tool or something. Evan froze. The same kind of metal? Why didn't you tell me? He whispered. I didn't want to cause problems between you two. I never imagined. Her voice cracked. Evan. What if this wasn't his first attempt? Evan stood slowly, a cold dread settling in his stomach. If Daniel had tried before, he might try again, and next time he might not fail. Evan stood in the middle of the living room, breathing hard, feeling like the walls were closing in. Every word Amelia had just spoken twisted inside his chest like a blade. His first attempt? Evan whispered to himself. How long has he been planning this? Amelia curled into herself on the sofa, hugging Ivy protectively. Evan, I'm scared he isn't finished. Evan knelt beside her. He won't get near you. I swear it. But even as he said the words, a part of him felt the terrifying truth. Daniel wasn't someone who backed down. He was someone who escalated. The doorbell rang. Amelia flinched so violently she nearly dropped. Ivy, Evan's heart slammed. Against his ribs. He motioned her to stay quiet. Stay back. Moving slowly, he approached the door and looked through the peephole. Empty porch. Nobody there. But on the ground, a small black envelope. Evan's stomach twisted. He opened the door, looked around, no one in sight, then snatched the envelope and retreated inside, locking the door behind him. Evan, what is it? Amelia whispered. He opened it. Inside was a photo of Amelia in their bedroom, weeks before she gave birth, lying on the bed, unconscious, her gown lifted slightly, her hair spread across the pillow. A chill went through Amelia so violently she stopped breathing. "No," she whispered. "No, no." Evan's hands shook uncontrollably. He took pictures. He documented it. There was writing on the back of the photo. "Perfect things are meant to be broken." Evan tore the picture in half, chest tight, vision blurring with rage. But Amelia grabbed his hand. "Don't destroy the evidence," she whispered, panic thick in her voice. "The police will need it." Evan froze. She was right. He sat down, clutching the pieces, feeling his entire world shifting into something dark and unfamiliar. That evening, the police called. They had gone to Daniel's flat already. "He wasn't there," the officer said. "But his car is missing and his phone is turned off." Amelia burst into tears. Evan gripped the phone harder. "What do you mean he's gone?" "We're issuing a search alert," the officer replied. "But be cautious. If he believes he may be arrested, he could act unpredictably. Keep your doors locked and avoid being alone." After hanging up, Evan paced the living room like a man trapped in a nightmare. "He's running," he murmured. "Running because he knows we told the police." Amelia sat trembling on the sofa, holding Ivy tight. "Evan, what if he comes here?" Evan knelt in front of her, his voice steady but filled with fire. "He won't get to you. I'll protect you both with my life." But deep down, fear gnawed at him. Daniel wasn't stupid. Daniel wasn't impulsive. Daniel was calculated, patient, and cruel. And now he was cornered. Cornered men didn't flee. They hunted. As night fell, Evan double-checked every lock, every window, every curtain. But no matter what he did, something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Like the air itself was holding its breath. And somewhere out there, perhaps close, perhaps watching, Daniel was planning his next move. Night swallowed the house, pressing down with a suffocating stillness that made every sound feel sharper, every creak suspicious. Evan sat in the armchair facing the front door, phone in hand, a kitchen knife resting on the table beside him, not because he wanted violence, but because fear demanded preparation. Amelia lay on the sofa with Ivy, though she hadn't slept in hours. Her eyes flickered around the room constantly, terrified of every shadow. She kept Ivy pressed against her chest. Whispering soft lullabies meant more to calm herself than the baby. Around midnight, the house grew strangely cold. Evan checked the thermostat. Nothing unusual. But Amelia watched him with wide eyes. "Evan, I don't like this. It feels like he's close." Evan returned to her side. "Daniel doesn't know we're here." "He knows everything," she whispered. "He always has." A sudden creak from the back of the house made both of them freeze. Evan stood instantly, gripping the knife. "Stay here." "No, don't leave me!" Amelia cried softly. "I'm just checking," he whispered. "I won't go far." He stepped down the hallway, each footstep echoing in his skull. The kitchen was empty, the laundry room silent, the back door locked. But when he returned to the living room, Amelia sat upright, white as a sheet. "Evan, look!" Behind the curtain, a shadow shifted. Evan felt his blood run cold. Slowly, carefully, he approached the window. He pulled the curtains apart fast. Nothing, just the dark yard, the faint shape of the garden fence, and the neighbor's porch light flickering in the distance. But the grass near the window was disturbed. Fresh footprints, leading toward the trees. Evan's pulse pounded. He was here. Amelia let out a broken sob. "He's watching us." He pulled her into his arms. "We call the police now." Before he could dial, a soft ding echoed from Evan's phone, a message notification. His hands trembled as he unlocked it. A photo, taken moments ago, of their house. From outside. The caption, "You sleep like a family. Beautiful." Amelia covered her mouth, shaking uncontrollably. Evan's breath caught in his throat. "He's outside," she whispered. "Right now, he's out there." Evan rushed to switch off all the lights. Darkness swallowed the house, but it also hid them. Amelia clutched Ivy tightly as the baby whimpered. Evan whispered, "I'm calling the police. Don't move." He dialed emergency services. His voice was low, urgent. "He's here. He's outside our house right now." The operator told them to stay inside and wait for officers to arrive. Sirens would be dispatched immediately. But the night felt endless. Minutes crawled. Every second stretched like wire. Then a tap, soft, deliberate, on the living room window. Amelia screamed and buried her face into Ivy's blanket. Evan spun around, knife trembling in his hand. Silence. Then another tap. And a third. Slow, rhythmic. mocking. Evan swallowed, stepping in front of Amelia, shielding her with his body. "Stay behind me." The sirens finally broke the night, growing louder, closer, until blue and red flashes lit the street outside. The tapping stopped. Evan exhaled shakily. "It's okay. They're here." But Amelia shook her head, voice trembling. "No, Evan." "He's not running." She stared at the dark window, eyes wide with horror. "He's waiting." Police lights spilled across the street like a lifeline, flashing patterns of blue and red that should have made Evan feel safer. But instead, they only unsettled him more. Daniel was too calm, too calculated, too proud of his cruelty to flee just because sirens approached. Evan moved slowly toward the window, knife still clutched in his hand. He couldn't see anything now, not a shadow, not a silhouette, not even the suggestion of a person. But the memory of that rhythmic tapping wedged itself into his spine. "He's toying with us," Evan whispered. Amelia was sitting on the sofa, rocking Ivy tightly, tears streaking her face. Her voice trembled. "Evan, do you think he wants to hurt Ivy?" Evan's chest constricted. "No, he wants control. He wants fear. He wants you shattered. And he wants me powerless." The knocking on the door startled them both. Evan stepped forward, tense until he heard a voice. "Police." He exhaled shakily and opened the door. Two officers stood on the porch, hands already resting on their holsters. Behind them, another officer scanned the bushes with a flashlight. "Mr. Harris?" the female officer said. "We received your call. Any visual confirmation of the suspect?" "He was at the window," Evan said, voice tight. "He sent us a photo, taken from outside the house. And we found footprints in the yard." The officers immediately spread out, checking the perimeter. Amelia's eyes followed them through the window, her knuckles white against Ivy's blanket. Minutes passed. One officer returned. "Sir, we tracked footprints leading toward the back." "The back fence," he reported. "They disappear near the trees." No sign of him now. Amelia's desperation broke free. "But he could be hiding. He could be watching us right now." The officer nodded sympathetically. "We will station a patrol outside your home for the night. He won't get close again." Evan knew they meant well, but Daniel didn't obey lines, rules, boundaries, or warnings. When the officers stepped briefly outside to finalize their report, Amelia's voice hushed to a whisper. "Evan, there's something I didn't tell the police." Evan tensed. "What is it?" She swallowed hard. "It's not just the metal piece. It's not just the photo. He said something to me weeks ago. I thought he was joking." Evan moved closer. "What did he say?" Her voice cracked like glass. "He said you chose the wrong brother." Evan froze. His entire world paused. "Brother?" He repeated slowly, breathless. "Daniel doesn't have a brother." Amelia looked up with terrified eyes. "I don't think he meant family." Realization hit Evan like cold water rushing over his skin. Daniel had always been there. Every celebration, every crisis, every milestone. He'd been in the delivery room corridor. He'd visited the house constantly during the pregnancy. He'd been at their wedding, smiling for pictures like he already belonged in their story. Daniel didn't see himself as a friend. He saw himself as competition, replacement, the better man, waiting for Evan to fail or fall. Suddenly something slammed against the back door. A heavy thud. Amelia screamed. Evan spun around, knife raised, adrenaline pumping through his veins like fire. The officers stormed in, shouting commands, but the back door wasn't broken. No one was inside. On the glass, smeared with dirt from a gloved hand, was a message written in sloppy streaks. "Let me in." Amelia sobbed harder than ever. Evan's hand shook. Because Daniel wasn't breaking in. He wanted to be invited. He wanted consent. He wanted control. The officer barked, "Stay back! No one moves." But Evan already knew. Daniel wasn't trying to scare them anymore. He was escalating. And this wasn't the end. Evan backed away from the door, heart hammering. The stench of fear, guilt, and stale air filled the house, heavier than any smell he had ever known. Amelia trembled in the corner, clutching Ivy, the soft whimpers of their baby echoing like a fragile plea for safety. The police officers moved between them and the door, weapons raised, voices harsh in the silence. One of them shone a flashlight across the room. The glass bore the crude scrawl, "Let me in." Evan's blood ran cold. The message was a threat, a challenge, a promise. The officers radioed back up and ordered everyone to stay clear while they checked the perimeter outside. But inside, time felt slower, each second stretching with dread. Every creak in the floor, every rustle outside, made Evan's senses snap. Amelia pressed closer to Ivy, rocking slightly, as though trying to will everything to go away. Finally, one officer returned, shaking his head. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. No one in the yard. Evan's fists clenched. He's gone again? He asked quietly, voice raw. He promises to come back. The officer's gaze was sympathetic. We'll keep patrols throughout the night. But after that, Evan interrupted. He comes inside. I know him. He won't run. He waits. He watches. And then he gets inside by pretending he belongs. His voice cracked. He's done it before. Amelia let out a soft sob. Please don't make me stay here tonight. Evan's heart twisted, but he nodded. We'll go somewhere else. Somewhere safe. Within the hour, amid flashing red and blue lights outside and the hum of police walkie-talkies, they packed a bag. Ivy slept quietly. Amelia's face was hollow, her eyes haunted, but she clung to Evan. He tucked a small blanket around her, lifted the baby from the bassinet, and carried her to the car. The officers escorted them out under protection, placing them in a patrol vehicle and telling them a safer place was arranged for the night. As the car pulled away from the neighborhood, passing dim streetlights and shuttered houses, Amelia finally whispered, Evan, thank you for believing me, for going to the police. He glanced at her through the rearview mirror. Her pale face was pressed close to Ivy, tears still tracking down her cheeks. Thank you for telling the truth, he said softly. Together, we're going to get through this. Outside, the night swallowed the street behind them. A cold wind brushed against the windows. In the rear seat, Amelia closed her eyes, trembling, her body rigid with fear and shock. Evan looked forward, jaw tight, staring at the road that led them away from the home that had turned into a nightmare. But in his heart he knew this was not just escape. This was fight. He clenched the steering wheel, knuckles white. He'll pay, he whispered. He'll pay for everything. And Amelia, resting her head on Ivy's soft blanket, finally allowed herself to fall asleep for the first time in nights. Though dreams would come later, dreams of safety, of healing, of breaking free from the poison Daniel had sown. Still, as the city lights flickered past and the car carried them into the unknown, both of them understood. Even in escape, the danger wasn't gone. It was just waiting. Evan parked the car outside a small, nondescript motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that promised anonymity and quiet. The neon sign flickered weakly in the night, casting a soft glow over the damp pavement. Amelia stayed curled around Ivy in the back seat, exhausted but still tense, eyes darting to every shadow outside the car window. Evan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. We're safe here, he whispered, though his own voice trembled with the lingering fear. For tonight. Just tonight. Amelia nodded but didn't speak. She was too drained, too fragile. She finally let Ivy rest in the motel crib Evan had requested in advance. The baby slept peacefully, unaware of the horrors surrounding her family. Once they were settled, Evan sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his face in his hands. I can't believe this, he muttered. All these years, Daniel was waiting for an opportunity, and now he actually did it. Amelia came to him, hands shaking, and knelt beside him. Evan, I feel broken, she whispered. I feel like I can't trust anyone. Even after the police, even after you, I can't shake the fear. He pulled her close, holding her tight. I know, I feel it too. But you're not broken. You're alive. Ivy is alive. And Daniel, he's going to pay for this. She leaned her forehead against his chest. I don't know if I can ever forgive him. You don't have to, Evan said firmly. You just have to survive him. And then we'll deal with everything else. Together. Amelia let out a shaky breath. I hate that he's so clever. He thought he could ruin everything we built. He thought I'd be scared forever. You're stronger than he realizes, Evan said softly, kissing her temple. He underestimated you and me. There was a pause as the weight of the night settled over them. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees. Ivy stirred in her sleep, making small noises that echoed like reminders of hope. We should rest, Evan finally said. Tomorrow we'll talk to the police again. We'll give them everything, photos, evidence, everything he's done, and they'll find him. I promise you. Amelia nodded weakly, exhaustion finally overtaking her fear. I just want to sleep, she whispered. I want to feel safe again. Evan kissed the top of her head. You will, and I'll be right here the whole time, no matter what. They settled into the motel bed, side by side, Ivy between them. Sleep came slowly, shallow and interrupted by memories and fears, but it came. For the first time in nights, Amelia allowed herself to close, her eyes without the constant vigilance that had ruled her life. Evan, however, stayed awake longer, listening to her breathing, staring at the ceiling, thinking of Daniel, calculating, planning, waiting, and Evan knew that as long as Daniel existed, their lives could never truly return to normal. But he also knew that they would fight, together. The night stretched long and uneasy, but for the first time, Evan felt a glimmer of hope. The danger was not over, but they were no longer helpless, and that made all the difference. The morning sunlight filtered through the thin motel curtains, casting a soft golden glow across the small room. Ivy stirred in her crib, cooing softly. Amelia, still pale and fragile, watched her daughter with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. Evan sat beside her, clutching a cup of coffee, like it was armor against the anxiety that still gripped him. "Did you sleep at all?" Amelia asked quietly. "Not really," Evan admitted. "I couldn't stop thinking about him." "About Daniel," Amelia swallowed hard, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "I can't believe he did all of this. And that he got so close. Too close." Evan took her hand in his. "He's not going to get close again. I promise you that. The police are involved now, and we have evidence. Every photograph, every note, every trace of what he did. We'll make sure he pays." Amelia's lips trembled. "But even if he goes to jail, I don't think I'll ever feel normal again. I feel like my body, my mind, everything he touched is tainted." Evan shook his head firmly. "No, Amelia. Your body isn't tainted. Your mind isn't broken. He tried to control you, to scare you, to make you feel powerless. But he didn't succeed. You survived, and we're going to rebuild everything he tried to destroy." Amelia looked at him, tears brimming. "I hope you're right." After breakfast, Evan contacted the police to report the new evidence, the photos, the note on the glass, and Amelia's recollection of the threats. Officers assured them that a full investigation was underway and that Daniel would be tracked and apprehended. Even so, Evan felt uneasy. Daniel's meticulous nature made him unpredictable, and Evan knew he couldn't rely solely on the authorities. He spent the morning securing their digital accounts, changing passwords and reviewing phone logs. Amelia sat nearby, holding Ivy, trying to focus on normal things, feeding schedules, baby giggles, and small domestic routines. But even the gentle coo of Ivy couldn't fully erase the shadow of Daniel's presence. By afternoon, Amelia allowed herself a small walk outside, Evan following closely, holding Ivy in a stroller. The fresh air, sunlight, and movement helped ease some of the tension, but every passing car, every stranger, and even every bird landing on a branch seemed loaded with danger. Evan glanced at Amelia. "I know it's hard. I know it feels like it will never end. But we have to keep moving forward. Daniel only has power if we let him, and I won't let him." Amelia nodded. "It's just, I keep thinking about that night, and how close I came to not noticing anything until it was too late." Evan hugged her tightly. "You noticed, Amelia. You survived, and that's what matters. Nothing else can take that away from you." As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the small motel garden, both of them realized that while Daniel had left scars, physical, emotional, and mental, they were stronger together. They had survived. They had acted, and they had the power to fight back. Evan looked at Amelia and whispered, "No matter what happens, we face it together. You, me, and Ivy. Always." Amelia nodded, squeezing his hand. "Always." The next few days passed slowly, marked by a tense rhythm of police updates, routine baby care, and the fragile attempts at normalcy that Amelia clung to. Every ring of the phone made her flinch. Every car passing by the motel window made her hold Ivy a little tighter. Evan, despite his own sleepless nights, remained her anchor, patient, vigilant, and unwavering. One afternoon the police called. Daniel had been located. A tip from a neighbor who noticed a suspicious man matching his description near a city park had led officers straight to a small apartment he had been hiding in. The officers had secured the building, and Daniel was now in custody, awaiting questioning. The news brought a mix of relief and tension. Evan exhaled, closing his eyes as if the weight of months of fear could finally ease just slightly. Amelia buried her face in Ivy's soft hair. "He's caught," she whispered. "He can't hurt anyone else." "Not anymore," Evan said firmly, though his hands trembled slightly. "He won't touch us again. I promise you that." Even so, the memory of the metal object, the photographs, and the messages remained vivid. Every shadow still felt threatening. Every sudden sound still triggered fear. But Evan reminded her, again and again, that the danger was over, that Daniel had been stopped. Later that evening, Evan sat with Amelia in the small motel kitchen, Ivy asleep in the next room. He sipped tea slowly, letting the warmth seep into his hands. "We'll get back home soon," he said softly. We'll reclaim our life. Amelia nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. It feels impossible to trust again. I feel like I should hide forever. Evan reached across the table, taking both her hands in his. I know, but hiding isn't the answer. Living, surviving, and reclaiming your life. That's our answer. Daniel took enough from us already. We can't let him take our future. A small, exhausted smile broke through Amelia's tear-stained face. I'll try, she whispered. I really will. Evan leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. I know you will. And I'll be right here every step. That night they finally allowed themselves a full night of rest. For the first time in weeks, the oppressive fear that had dominated their lives eased, replaced with a fragile sense of hope. Even the nightmares that plagued Amelia seemed to retreat, leaving her body and mind just a little lighter. As dawn broke, Evan and Amelia packed their belongings, preparing to leave the motel and return home. Ivy giggled in her car seat, unaware of the ordeal her parents had endured. Evan glanced at her, then at Amelia, and felt a surge of determination. Whatever scars remained, whatever fear lingered, they had survived. They had endured, and now they had the power to reclaim the life Daniel had tried to destroy. Evan opened the car door, helping Amelia and Ivy inside. The air outside was crisp, the sky painted in soft morning hues. It felt like a new beginning. Amelia looked at him, a mixture of gratitude and exhaustion in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. For everything? Evan squeezed her hand. We did this together, always. As the car pulled onto the open road, away from the place that had held their nightmare, Evan felt a sense of resolve settle in his chest. Daniel had been caught, justice was underway, and though healing would take time, they were free, together, stronger than ever. The car rolled steadily along the highway, sunlight streaming through the windshield. Evan kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting gently over Amelia's on the passenger seat. Ivy slept soundly in the back, the tiny rise and fall of her chest a comforting reminder that life had endured, even after all they had been through. Amelia leaned back, taking a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, she felt the weight of fear lift, just a little. The nightmares, the smell, the trauma, it had all been real. But now Daniel was behind bars. He could no longer touch them, threaten them, or infiltrate their lives. I can't believe it's over, she whispered softly. Her eyes glistened, but this time, with relief rather than terror. I thought I'd never feel safe again. Evan squeezed her hand. It's over. You're safe. Ivy is safe. And I'm not going anywhere. We're together, and that's what matters. Amelia smiled faintly, letting herself relax. I want to go home, she murmured. I want to rebuild. Even if it takes time, I want to feel like myself again. You will, Evan assured her. Step by step. I'll be with you every step of the way. We'll take our home back. Not just the house, but our life. Our family. They drove in silence for a while, letting the quiet wrap around them like a warm blanket. Every mile felt like a small victory, a reclaiming of the world Daniel had tried to invade. The road stretched ahead, open and bright, filled with the promise of ordinary days, laughter, and the small joys of family life they had fought to protect. When they finally arrived at their home, Evan parked the car and stepped out, holding Ivy in his arms. The house looked the same, yet everything felt different. The walls had held secrets and danger, but now they would hold love and safety. Evan opened the door for Amelia, and together they stepped inside. Amelia paused in the doorway, taking in the familiar sight of their